Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope everyone is well. Lovely to see you. So, today's learning is dedicated in memory of all of those whose yahrzeit falls today, as well as all of those that we are saying Kaddish for. Today's learning is dedicated, sadly, in memory of those who tragically lost their lives in Israel in the horrendous terrorist attack that occurred yesterday in Dizengoff in Tel Aviv. I think it's a very difficult Pesach, I find, to be going into. In a sense, it's more difficult than last year and the year before. And let me explain why. I think there's very mixed emotions and mixed feelings that we have when we come in and we enter this Pesach. On the one hand, there's tremendous relief. At the end of the day, we're able to have a somewhat normal Pesach. COVID or the severity of COVID is not what it was, and therefore we are looking forward to being reunited with family and friends that we haven't seen for some time. But on the other hand, I think it's overshadowed by the events that surround it, the tragedies that are occurring in Israel, uh, heightened concerns for security, tensions, terrorist attacks. It's very, very worrying. And then you turn our attention to Ukraine, and of course, our thoughts and our prayers are with the Jewish people in particular, but the whole of the nation of Ukraine. What's going on is simply defies logic. It's beyond words, and it's the most terrible, terrible thing. And I know that despite the tremendous efforts of those on the ground, Israeli charities, British charities, American charities, it's going to be a very different Pesach. When they sit down to the Seder, the thousands of Jewish refugees, they won't need to say Manishtana Halayla Hazeh Mikol Halaylot. Why is this night different from all other nights? Because the fact that they will have been displaced, the fact that they are not going to be in their homes, the fact that they are going to hear the noise of bombs falling, rockets flying, or they just are simply going to be in some type of refugee camp and status. It in itself makes them feel that this year is regrettably and tragically different to all others. It's interesting that the night of Pesach is a seeming contradiction. We seem to have, on the one hand, expressions of freedom. We lean, we drink cups of wine, we dip, and the matzah is even an expression of freedom, the bread of freedom. And yet, on the other hand, it seems to be that we go the other way. We have expressions of slavery, of servitude, of persecution. The maror, the charoses. The maror represents the bitter herbs, the charoses, the mortar. And the matzah is a contradiction within itself. The matzah, of course, on the one hand is the bread of freedom, but on the other hand, it's lechem oni, it's the bread of the poor person. We break it in half like a poor person who doesn't know when his next meal is going to happen. We don't have time for the matzah to rise because we're rushing. We don't have the leisures and freedom of a free person. So we have these contradictions. So how do we resolve them? So the simple way would be for us to say, well, we're going in chronology. We're going to start off with the telling the story of the slavery, and then we will come to the deliverance and the freedom and liberty. And therefore, it makes sense that we conclude the climax of the Seder with the expressions of freedom. That would all be well if that's what we do. But if you look at the Seder, the word Seder means order. I don't think there is anything that seems to be more out of order. If you have a look at what we do and the order that we do it, it seems exceptionally disorderly. We start off speaking about dipping, which is a sign. We start off with Kiddush, and we lean. That's a sign of freedom. And then, of course, we come on to the breaking of the matzah. Yeah, we Kaddish Urchatz Karpas. We dip twice. That's a sign of freedom. Then we break the matzah. Why are we breaking matzah? Well, that's a sign of slavery, hiding a piece away for later, not knowing when the next meal is going to be, and so on and so forth. It seems very much all over the place. And just when we're going to have the meal of freedom, That's when we're just before that, we have the maror, we have the bitter herbs. What's going on? The answer is that the expressions of freedom and the expressions of slavery are really two halves of the same coin. It's a very deep idea. In other words, when God redeemed us, liberated us from slavery, the the freedom was not in and of itself the end goal. It was a means to an end. Moshe never tells Pharaoh, Moshe never tells to Pharaoh, let my people go, despite the movie. What Moshe says is, let my people go so that they can serve God. Shalach ami v'yavduni. Let my nation go so that they can serve my God. And therefore, there is this idea of the whole purpose of leaving Egypt was to have purpose, was to have meaning. It wasn't just that God plonked us in the desert, it was that we had a mission. We were going to be the chosen people. We were going to accept the Torah. We were going to be the moral conscience of the world, the light to the nations. That was the purpose. And therefore, as much as part of our history and freedom and celebration is always the expressions of freedom and being able to carry out God's will and make the right choices in life. On the other hand, we recognize that part of very much a part of our history and a part of our lives has always been that persecution, the hardships that go with being Jewish, that go with the responsibilities. Whenever we've let our guard down and we've become a bit lax, then we have received a reminder from our non-Jewish neighbors that we're Jewish. Remember who you are. Remember what you are. And therefore, perhaps that's why we have these signs of freedom and slavery, which seem to be mixed up, but really they're not, because they're two aspects of what it means to be Jewish. So therefore, friends, we will have bitterness this Seder night as we are not an island to ourselves. We'll be thinking and praying for our brothers and sisters in Israel, our brothers and sisters in the Ukraine and beyond, which are still suffering so much. But on the other hand, we'll also be able to celebrate, we'll be able to commemorate the great freedoms and accomplishments and achievements that we have as individuals and as a nation made. And yes, we should celebrate the fact that this Pesach, we are free. We're not quarantined. We're not locked up. We're not confined to our bedrooms or to our homes. We're able to come to shul. We're able to be part of a community. And please God, we look forward to the ultimate redemption, the drinking that fifth cup, when we will all come together, Jews from Ukraine, Jews from Britain, Jews from New York, and we'll all be in a peaceful, tranquil, beautiful, rebuilt Jerusalem speedily in our times. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom. Special shout out to those which have made comments this morning, no particular order, to Clarice, to Rachel, to Peter, to Eitan, to Carol, to Rabbi Michael Plasko, to Andrea, and to Alan. Lovely to see you. Keep well. Wishing everyone a good Shabbos. And Shabbos Hagodah is the big one. Take care. Have a good Shabbos.